Moida. This notion is not a new one, but this time it is a definite plan we intend to carry out. We have worked it all out and are both thrilled with the idea. Naturally, we feel a trifle nervous, but the anticipation is great.
Just a trifle, though.
Just a trifle. Ooh, like the dessert? That sounds delicious.
I do like trifles.
June 20th. We discussed our plans for Moitering Mother and made them a little clearer. Peculiarly enough, I have no qualms of conscience. Or is it peculiar we are so mad? June 21st, the day before Honora Parker's murder. We decided to use a brick and a stocking rather than a sandbag. We discussed the moiter fully. I feel keyed up as if I was planning a surprise party. So next time I write in the diary, Mother will be dead. How odd, yet how pleasing. The Humes family's departure was set for July 3rd. For the girls to be able to go through with their plan, they pretended to be cheerful as though they'd come to terms with the impending separation, and they were especially kind to Pauline's mother.
Of course.
Their act was successful, and the pair was able to persuade Honora Parker to accompany them on a farewell outing on the Port Hills in Victoria Park. On June 22nd, before leaving her house that day, Juliet had procured a half brick and set off for the Parker residence. Once she arrived, Juliet secretly gave the brick to Pauline, who concealed it in her bag.
I like how you can visualize it being like weirdly passed between two very small, fairly frail human beings.
Juliet and Pauline had lunch with the Parker family, through which both girls appeared cheerful. After lunch, Mrs. Parker and the two girls caught a bus to Kashmir, walked to Victoria Park, and they all had afternoon tea.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lovely day.
Yeah. Also, tea is delightful.
Tea is delightful.
I like little sandwiches.
After tea, the girls took Honora on a walk down a steep, secluded path, at which point Pauline removed the brick and stocking from her bag and caught her mother off guard with her first swing, knocking her to the ground.
Right, because you're not expecting to be hit by your child at all, ever, especially since you guys seem to be having a super great day.
That is correct. And they had walked down the path, reached the bottom of it, and then all three of them turned around. So on the way down, Juliet was in the back and Pauline was leading with the mother in the middle. Mm-hmm. But then on the way back, it was Pauline that was behind her mother, so it gave her a really great opportunity to start swinging at her. So after she knocked her to the ground with that first swing, she proceeded to bludgeon her mother repeatedly for several minutes until she could be certain that her mother was dead. Only 30 minutes after the three of them had begun their walk, Juliet and Pauline came running from the path, out of breath, and approached a kiosk manager. Pauline Parker spoke first, blurting out, quote, "Please help. Mother has fallen and hit her head on a rock and is covered in blood. I think she is dead." End quote.
Yeah, fallen. Because there's no difference between the pain of falling and the injuries and getting beat with a brick. There's no difference.
She showed us this really cool party trick where she pogoed on her skull on the rock multiple times.
Why even try at that point? You know that you're going to get screwed over. You know that you're gonna get caught.
And they thought that they were so clever, too.
Of course.
They thought they were so smart.
Well, they were great at writing stories.
Well, you know what? But they're bad at murder, which, thank God, be bad at murder. I'm happy you got caught, but still.
Maybe they're not bad at murder. Maybe they're just bad at acting.
Or both. Maybe they're bad at acting and moiter.
Oh, gosh.
When Honora Parker's body was found, she was on her back facing slightly downhill. Her head had been terribly battered, and a post-mortem examination revealed that her skull had been smashed.
You mean from that fall that she took on the rock, right?
Yeah, the one where she pogoed down on her head. There were about 45 injuries, most of them to the head and face, but they were also able to identify defensive wounds on her hands.
Right.
Near her body, authorities discovered the blood-stained brick laying beside her head on a nearby grassy bank. They had found the stocking with the knot tied in it, but the foot was missing from the stocking.
Excuse me, sir? Do you mean that they found the stone that she fell on?
Oh, yeah. Did we say stone? Because it was a brick, actually.
Oh, and I'm not sure why, but there's also a stocking. It has her blood on it. Not sure why.
Well, actually, the stocking, like I said, it had the foot cut out of it, but they saw that it still had, I mean, I'm sure that there was still probably blood splatter on it. There had to be.
Yeah.
But it had the foot cut off of it, and that part of it was missing. And there was so much blood at the scene of the crime that it began to run down the path, which made it clear to authorities that Honora Parker had died in the same spot where she was laying.
Right.
Later, detectives uncovered the foot of the stocking, which had been missing, like we were just talking about, and when they found it, it was soaked in blood and matted with Honora Parker's hair.
How strange how that could possibly happen if you're wailing on someone with a brick.
Somebody just had, I don't know, a really hairy foot, and they cut themselves. Duh.
Oh my gosh.
At 8 p.m. that evening, the two girls were interviewed by detectives at Juliet's home. Pauline was interviewed first and had this to say, quote, "We were walking up the track, having been to the bottom. I was leading, and Mother and Deborah were behind me. Mother suddenly slipped and fell. She twisted sideways and hit her head on a rock or something. She seemed to keep tossing up and down, hitting her head."
What? How? It's impossible.
When authorities asked about the stocking, Pauline told them she happened to have a stocking in her bag that she used to wipe up some of the blood.
Oh, surely, yeah. That's why the hair got matted in there.
Yeah. She was wiping really hard.
She was like, I don't know why the hair's coming out. I'll just keep this for later. Dumb.
Oh, God, we shouldn't be laughing about this.
No.
No. Juliet had been interviewed directly after Pauline with her mother present, at which point she backed up Pauline's story about Mrs. Parker falling and hitting her head. Senior Detective Brown questioned Pauline Parker again, making it clear the police did not believe her, at which point Pauline confessed to the murder, but had tried covering for Juliet, telling authorities that Juliet had walked farther up the path and was unaware of Pauline's plan to kill her mother.
Yeah, okay, no.
After her confession, Pauline Parker was taken to the Christchurch police station, where she was then charged with the murder. Police conducted a search of Pauline's bedroom where they had uncovered her journal, detailing the plan and implicating Juliet.
Good.
Yeah, righto. I mean, also, you did write about it in your journal.
Yeah.
So you're bad at this. Don't leave evidence behind. But then again, you also left all the evidence at the scene of the crime, too, so whatever.
Right.
But you're very clever. You're very smart girls.
Well, they live in a different world with different rules there.
Yeah, they live in the fourth dimension.
Yeah. They know better than everyone else. That's why they're great actresses.
Juliet Hume was questioned the following day and made this statement describing the events of Mrs. Parker's death. Quote, "I was expecting Mrs. Parker to be attacked. I heard noises behind me. It was a loud conversation. They sounded angry. I saw Mrs. Parker in a sort of squatting position. They were quarreling. I went back. I saw Pauline hit Mrs. Parker with the brick and the stocking. I took the stocking and hit her too. I was terrified. I thought that one of them had to die. I wanted to help Pauline. It was terrible. Mrs. Parker moved convulsively. We both held her. She was still when we left her. The brick had come out of the stocking with the force of the blows. I cannot remember Mrs. Parker saying anything distinctly. I was too frightened to listen. After the first blow was struck, I knew it would be necessary to kill her. I was terrified and hysterical," end quote. So their trial began on Monday, August 23rd, and ended Saturday, August 28th, lasting only about 5.5 days. Neither Parker nor Hume's defense attorneys disputed that the girls had carried out the murder. Partway through the third day, the defense began claiming that the girls were insane at the time of Mrs. Parker's death, which, by the way, works so well so frequently. One of Hume's attorneys, Mr. Terence Gresham, made this statement to the jury, quote, "The Crown has seen fit to refer to the accused as ordinary, dirty-minded little girls. Our evidence will show that they are nothing of the kind. The Crown's description is unfortunate and medically incorrect. They are mentally sick girls more to be pitied than to be blamed." Which now we're going to get to that thing that you love to talk about.
I know.
Central to the defense's argument was the testimony of psychiatrist Dr. Reginald Medlicott, who had interviewed both girls and read their writings, including Pauline's journals from both 1953 and 1954, and he had this to say, quote, "I consider they have paranoia of an exalted type. It is in the setting of folie à deux." He told the court, "It is a form of systemized delusional insanity. It can be of various types, the usual being prosecutional, but the girls suffer from the exalted type. The French phrase folie à deux is described as a communicative insanity."
It's my favorite.
Yes.
Actually, they've tried to start doing studies on what could possibly, not that it's often that people can claim that that's a thing, but they've looked in studies, I've heard recently, to see if they actually have a psychic connection as well. because it's considered as part of that too, because in Fred and Rose, it's a thing too.
Well, I was reading that there's the two different kinds. There's folie imposée and folie simultanée. So one of them is when the person who's ill takes their thoughts and their madness and they force the other person to buy into it.
Totally.
And then the other one is when both people buy into it together. So on the final day of the trial, after deliberating for only 2 hours and 15 minutes, the jury returned with a verdict of guilty against each of the girls. Because both were under the age of 18, they could not be sentenced to death. So in consequence, the judge sentenced Pauline Parker and Juliet Hume to be detained during Her Majesty's pleasure, an indefinite term of detention. It was also ordered that the two never speak or be in any kind of correspondence with each other ever again. Pauline and Juliet were both sent to the only facility available for juvenile female prisoners at the time, which was Mount Eden Prison, but they were kept apart as per the terms of their life sentences. Neither was given psychiatric treatment, which the prison had justified by pointing out that according to the verdict handed down by the court, they were both sane.
Right, totally.
But both were released before 1960 after spending just 5 years in prison. Once released, both girls changed their names and assumed new identities. Pauline became a devout Catholic and spends most of her time in prayer, and she has always refused to give interviews regarding the murder. Currently, she is 80 years old. Juliet went on to become a successful novelist, writing about murder mysteries, and you may have heard of her. Her name is now Anne Perry. Perry's identity came out in light of the resurgence of interest in the killing surrounding the release of Peter Jackson's 1994 film, Heavenly Creatures.
Right.
Which is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's super good. It's not completely correct.
It's definitely fictionalized.
Yeah, definitely watch that movie, but understand it is very, very dramatized. But it's lovely.
It's a really good movie. Also, it's Kate Winslet's debut film, so...
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it wasn't the first thing she ever did. She was in a TV show before that, and she did some plays beforehand.
I never remember
but
that.
It was her first movie.
I love that other girl. Oh, and she was in But I'm a Cheerleader, which I referenced a little bit earlier, but I can never remember her
That's
name.
right, she was.
Lind, no.
I can't
Her
think
last
of her name.
Melanie Linsky.
Yes.
I didn't even, all I had to do was open up IMDb, and then I was like, Melanie Linsky.
I like her.
I do too. She's so funny. She's adorable too, to be fair.
And in But I'm a Cheerleader, she's
face.
adorable.
I hate you. I quit. No, that was good. It was super fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun case. Now you get to talk. Yeah.
I mean, I guess. What if I just meowed aggressively like April Ludgate into... I just watched that episode again the other day because that's who I am.
I'm never mad at any likeness of Aubrey Plaza.
No.
Ever.
So here's the thing. So remember, I couldn't find the story that I was going to do? Mm-hmm. I found it. You get the choice, though.
Okay.
Because I now have two ready to roll.
Okay.
And I don't know which one I want to do anymore.
You got
it's
two bullets in the barrel.
Yeah. I have a bunch on the computer, but I have two currently written.
Or in the clip.
Fully out.
I don't know anything about guns. Okay.
I know things about guns, but they scare me really bad.
Okay, so what are my choices?
I'm not sure how to make you choose.
Give me a key word for the subject matter from each. I love this game.
I'm trying to think. So we talked about it a little bit the other day where I was like, wait, didn't we do that one? And you're like, yeah, I thought so. But then we never released it because the sound went bad.
Oh, okay.
But then there's another one that I haven't done. It's about a hotel.
The other one wasn't a hotel, though. Mm-mm. Do the one that's not a hotel.
Like I said, every time I pick it up, I'm like, maybe I don't want to do it. It's been literally the first one that we would have put out was supposed to be the one that I've just been like, we'll do it later. I won't do it later. I won't do it later. You already know some of this story, or maybe hopefully don't remember most of it.
I mean, I suffer from CRS, so I'm sure I'll be fine.
Which, remember when I was like, what even is that? Because I'm an old lady and I don't know anything about the world.
Can't remember shit.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that makes sense. So my story is kind of two stories now that you've picked the one. It's interesting. They're both in the same area. So Thornton Heath is a district of southern London and home to two purported poltergeist occurrences, the first of which took place in 1938 involving Nander Fodor, a psychoanalyst and a parapsychologist, and a Miss L. Forbes. That's the only way she's ever been identified, but I'm sure if you look really hard, you can probably find her full name.
That's a fancy name.
Yeah, she's very fancy.
Fancy pants.
They tried to keep her anonymity, but you gave us
a first name letter and also her last name. So,
Oh, when you said L, I thought ELLE.
oh no, just L.
And I was like, ooh, like the magazine.
L period. Miss Forbes was supposedly being attacked by multiple poltergeists or demons. She had complained that a vampire had visited her and had bit her, showing Nander 2 puncture marks as proof. A, quote, rope burn appeared on her neck, and she said a ghost had tried to strangle her with her necklace. Because necklaces and ropes, same density.
Yeah, I mean, I wear a rope necklace